And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Man, this is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time, but I'm going to do a warning before this video starts. I'm going to let you know that anytime I talk about the Chinese market or simplified Chinese cards, all the information I'm receiving is secondhand. I do not know any of the information I'm about to tell you firsthand. Everything is handed to me. And a lot of the information I get is me on Google Translate, trying to translate like from the Chinese Pokemon Center, from Chinese articles, talking to people like not just people in China, but talking about people that live in the United States, but they're in college right now and they're originally from China. They know what's going on in the market. Everything I tell you in today's video, I'm not willing to die on any of the hills. Everything I'm telling you is just the information I have because I do believe you should have the same information I have. So, there's a big product coming out recently, and if you guys aren't following the Pokemon Chinese market, it's the Chinese Pokemon first anniversary exclusive gift box. Now, if you guys know, there used to be traditional Chinese, and then that was available in like Hong Kong and Taiwan. But then Pokemon finally was able to get the IP into mainland China because the reason they were never able to get their big IP into China before was just the Chinese government was too strong. But eventually, Pokemon was able to break down those barriers, and then they were able to go into Chinese mainland, and then they started producing the simplified Chinese cards. And because it's obviously by the time they were able to get in there is pretty late. It's 2022, so they were doing the ultimate game of catch up. So by ultimate game of catch up, what did Pokemon do? They started with Sun and Moon base, and then they just absolute warp speed, light speed. They raced through all these different sets. They made a bunch of hybrid sets. So sometimes you would open a pack, it would have a GX card in it, but then you could also have some kind of crazy card from Vivid Voltage, stuff like this. So because Pokemon had to play catch up, like I said, it was just Sun and Moon to present, and they did a warp seed thing. But now it's finally been 1 year. 1 year of Pokemon in mainland China, and the anniversary of that date was October 28th. So there's a lot of correct information going around about this box. There's a lot of false information going around about this box. The first warning I'm going to give you is right now on eBay, if I were you, I would not touch any of the pre-orders. I am not buying any of the pre-orders. I'm telling you right now, the people, you have to really, really look on eBay and look at who's pre-selling these Chinese Pokemon First Edition exclusive gift boxes. No one has them yet. So when you do the original translation, it said that the release dates of these were October 28th. So a lot of people just took that as gospel. Oh, okay. The 1 year anniversary is the 28th. These things are being released on the 28th, and they're also being released with some auxiliary products. But if you actually translate the entire article and you really you have to not just translate the main paragraph, you have to get into the article. And the way the article is written is that pre-orders would start on October 28th for this set. So people are just putting their pre-orders in now in China, and you have to do it in person in the the Pokemon flagship store. Now, can you do it online for pre-orders? Again, that is where the information I know, there is limits to the information. So maybe it is available for pre-orders online, but the way I understand it is it's only available for pre-order at their flagship store. Again, that could be a translation issue on my behalf. Again, I'm just giving you the information as I know it. But so some of the numbers I'm seeing when these products might get released is November 11th. I've seen some people throw that number around. I wasn't able to verify that date, so I don't know if that date is true. But I'm telling you right now, if anybody is on eBay selling these boxes and doing pre-orders, be very, very careful who you're pre-ordering from. Again, I am not ordering any of these yet. I want to wait to see what the actual release is like. Now, if you don't know what these Chinese first anniversary exclusive gift boxes is, I guess I should probably tell you the actual cards that are in it. So there's two really big cards that people are really excited about. The first one is Frenson Galar. We had it in Japanese. We also had it in English. We had it in the Silver Tempest set. In English, that card sells between $10 to $15. It's a nice full art trainer. It's got some, cool characters on it, but most people don't really care too much about that card. If they did care about it, that card would be valued way above $10 or $15. Now, the second card that's featured in that gift box is a card that a lot of people care about, and that's the Friends in Alola. Now, the Friends in Alola card, we never got in English. That card was only available in, what was it? The Master Battle sets. So Master Battle sets were available. They were print to order. So right at the end of Sun and Moon, Master Battle sets were released in Japan. You could pre-order them on Pokemon Center. At the time, the MSRP price was between $100 and $120 US dollars, depending on conversion rates, like which conversion rates you want to use. But the price was between $100 and $120. A lot of people settle on like $113, $115. It depends. You have to go back in time to 2019 and do conversion rates. But either way, that box sold for, call it $115. Well, it was limited. But it was made to order. So if you really wanted that box, you had your opportunity to get it. And it was more or less, in Japan, Pokemon's way of just doing a kickoff and a farewell to Sun and Moon. And there was a lot of hype behind that product. But the problem is in August 2019, it wasn't the same market as today. People didn't think about these cards, didn't think about releases, think about future value of those. A lot of people, even at that time, were still comparing some sets to the Team Rocket briefcase, asking, will we ever see another Team Rocket briefcase? And well, the Master Battle set kind of did play out like that. So right at release, so you could pre-order those in August of 2019. Come December 2019 is when those actually started getting shipped out from the Pokemon Center Japan. And right at the very initial release, those cards were already going crazy. That Friends in Alola card was selling for $115, meaning that one card paid for that entire box. That Pikachu card that came with it in that Master Battle set was selling for $70. It was a great purchase for anybody that did it. Now, I told you, you could pre-order that box in August 2019. In December 2019, when it was released, that Friends in Alola card was selling for $115, and a lot of people sold at that price because they were like, wow, I sell this one card, I pay for this entire gift box, I got this Pikachu for free, and I got all the items inside. Well, guess what happened? Pokemon craze happened. Now, that same Friends in Alola card in a PSA 10 sells for around $4,000. And that $4,000 price point is way lower than the highs of that card. The highs of that card is 5 figures. It was breaking right around $10,000, but the market has really settled, especially for a lot of these Japanese cards. The market has really settled, but still, that Friends in Alola card is still a $4,000 card. The Pikachu that was in that Master Battle set is still selling for right around $1,500. So, I just told you that was a product you could pre-order for $115 in August 2019. Fast forward to today, if you wanted to pick up one of those sealed, you're looking between $10,000 and $12,000. So, that's why people care about that other card. Where I told you that Friends in Galar card you could get in Silver Tempest for $10 to $15, that's a cool card, but it's the Friends in Alola card. And now, people are looking at this because we never got that card released in English. It was a very limited release in Japan. I told you had to pre-order it. You never had another opportunity to get it. But now, people are finally having another opportunity to get this card. And this time, it's just going to be in simplified Chinese. So a lot of people right now in this area of the market, especially the people that focus on the Chinese cards, they're really looking at this card and they're saying, well, how will it play out? Can it play out exactly like a Master Battle set? No, probably not. I think the days of $115 product in 2019, fast forward 4 years later, that box sells between $10,000 to $12,000. I don't think that's going to happen. But this Pokemon first anniversary exclusive gift box, the MSRP in China right now is about $140 American. And I keep messing it up if it's I think it's the yuan. It's like 1,028 yuan. YUAN. I keep calling it yen. They keep confusing with the Japanese currency, but I think it's the yuan. YUAN. But it's like 1,028 of those for the pre-order price. And if you do it into a currency translator, it works out to be right around $140 with today's current market or today's current conversion rates. So I've talked to a lot of people now that live in China, and they're focusing on a lot of the TCG market, but I was actually kind of interested to hear their thoughts on Pokemon. And I asked them, I said, well, what do you think of Pokemon? What do you think of the plays? And they said right now that they don't really enjoy the Pokemon TCG. It's because they said in China right now, people are not focusing on the actual playability of the card. Like the Pokemon trading card game, nobody's really focusing on that. He said the same way as you have flippers in America, he goes, the flippers in China are 10 times as worse, because right now the profits that you could be made flipping product from the Chinese market, doing the single play, shipping it overseas, he said that the margins are just so crazy high right now that everybody is more or less like ruining it. So the same way everybody felt in November, December 2020, when everybody was going crazy, you couldn't walk into your local Walmart or Target and pick up product. The same thing's going on right now in China, but the reason why that crazy demand is going on is because so much buying pressure is coming from out of China, especially America probably being the #1 buyer of those. And we are really increasing the prices of a lot of these products, and really we're doing it kind of in a way parabolic. Like any product that these people are able to pick up in person in China, they're able to just go home and flip almost everything for double their MSRP. So what the person I was talking to was saying, he's not really enjoying it, and he's afraid to like invest in the Chinese market, and he's afraid to speculate on it because of how much FOMO he said is currently in that market. Now, that is something I'm very detached from. I told you this to start this video. I am detached from what's going on in China. Again, everything I'm told is secondhand, especially like not the Marnie collection box, the Marnie determination box, but before that, the Lily collection box. I heard when that was released, people were waiting in lines for up to 8 hours to purchase just one of them. So it seems like there is a lot of demand. Again, back to what he said, is it a demand, like is it a true organic demand from the actual collector base in China? Or are they going through like their own form of 2020 where any product they go buy at store is instantly going to go crazy in price? Now, for the Pokemon first anniversary, there were a couple products that were actually released today on October 28th. They were like a binder collection, but they have like a couple cool cards, but they're more just like V's, nothing that's really crazy to write home for. Like there's like a Zamazenta, Azacian, there's cards like that, but the product people are really waiting for is this Chinese first anniversary exclusive gift box. Now, I already told you what I'm doing. I'm waiting. The problem is I'm waiting for two reasons. One, I don't trust any of the buyers that are selling right now. You can look at their feedback scores. And the sad reality is I saw somebody, and this is a true story, this is not made up. It's one of the sponsored listings on eBay right now. It's a 0 seller feedback. The account was created in October 2023. They sponsored this listing, and they already have multiple sales. That is a sad day. That's a sad day. If for any reason, one of you out there watching this, and you pre-ordered from a Chinese seller with 0 feedback who created their account the same month that you are doing this pre-order for $500+, please take 1 second and just think about what you're doing. You're probably not going to get that pre-order. Maybe you will. Maybe, you know what, miracles happen every day, but that's not a miracle I'm really banking on. So what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for the sellers that I have bought from in the past, Chinese sellers. And again, I come from the world of, there's 2 words in just this hobby that don't mix well, and it's Chinese and it's sellers. Those 2 words just in this hobby have never mixed well. Anytime you're ever buying from a Chinese seller, for the majority of the history of this hobby, you are probably going to have a bad time. So what I wait for is I'm waiting for the sellers that I have bought from in the past, who always have multiple quantities, who have very like reputable stores. When their pre-orders go up, or maybe not even when their pre-orders go up, because they're probably not going to do pre-orders, they're just going to, when they get product in hand, that will be when they sell those products. And then that will be when I buy from somebody that I know I can trust, somebody I know who's a reputable seller. And I recommend everybody out there doing that too. Again, we don't know how many of these products are going to exist either. There could be a huge flood of these. There can be multiple waves of these way too early. Listen, I can't even tell you right now if there's going to be multiple waves of English products. Like right now, people are still waiting on Crown Zenith ETB reprints for English. We know we know they're coming. We still don't know when they're coming. And that is a market that I'm about as familiar as you could possibly get with. The English Pokemon market, and I still can't tell you when a reprint's coming out for an English product. Even though we know we have guaranteed reprints, I don't know the date they're coming out. So for somebody that asked me, PK, how many waves of this could potentially happen? When will they be reprinted? I'm telling you right now, there's just some things in this hobby that I don't know, and telling you when Chinese reprints of potential Chinese reprints of products are going to come, that is so far out of the wheelhouse of anything I'm comfortable with. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up probably one, maybe two of these boxes. There's a big thing that I told you that I keep trying to do is I'm trying to make myself liquid in this hobby, and to tie up a bunch of money in another $500 product. Listen, I bought a bunch of those Lily collection boxes a couple months back. I tied up thousands of dollars into Lily collection boxes. All played out great. I wish I honestly sold a couple of them. I'm still sitting on all of them at this point. Still have thousands of dollars tied up into Lily collection boxes. Probably should start pulling the trigger right now. My prices that were my buy-ins were all much higher than today's prices. But even with the Lily collection boxes, prices have came down a little bit. When I made a video talking about the Marnie Determination box, I told you I only bought one just at crazy prices. I put up the link to where I bought it, and I was like, listen, I'm going to give you guys a huge bit of warning. I don't know what this product's going to look like for reprints. We're probably going to see this product be reprinted. We're probably going to see like price stagnation for a decent amount of time. Now, decent amount of time in this hobby can be a year. Can be on the high end, sometimes 2 years. In Pokemon, 2 years might as well be an eternity. Like, for most people, the thought of like sitting on product or seeing how things play out in a 2-year timeline is crazy. But there's still a lot of people like that Alola Friends card. There's a lot of people that just want a copy of that card, and they may not care that it's in Chinese. Yeah, you might have the absolute die-hardest, most true of collector that want that card in the Japanese because it came in the Master Battle collection or whatever. Like, whatever, like, way they're able to do mental gymnastics in order to justify spending $4,000 on a card that might have had a limited release, opposed to just getting the same card with the same artwork in a different language for substantially less. Like, that will happen. That's always happened. That is not something new in this hobby. That is not a new like thought process. That is a very old process. So just be careful getting into this product, because I have a feeling prices right at release. I'm just told you that MSRP in China is about $140. There's no way you're picking this product up at $140. I'm sorry. Now, what is the premium you're going to have to pay over that $140? I'm not sure. You know, I would feel comfortable in a box like that, $299. Maybe go as high as $400. When the prices for these boxes, if the demand is there, when they start to creep into the $500 range, when they start to potentially creep into the $600 ranges for early releases, that's when I'm going to tell you I get very nervous. And that's a big range. I just told you I felt very comfortable at $300. That's a 2x MSRP. MSRP 140, I feel comfortable at $300. I feel a little less comfortable at $400, less at $500, and super uncomfortable at $600. This is the way I look at stuff. Now, the thing about these products is time's going to dictate these products, how these products play out, how the demand is. Right now, the thing I'm most excited about is, one, these products seem to be relatively limited in the way that people are able to actually acquire these. So a lot of the resellers you're going to be buying from in China are probably going to have already like purchased those from the secondary market in China to have large quantities to send it to you in America. Now, from the person I talked to, I did explain to you earlier in this video that he's saying he's holding back from this market because he thinks there's too much FOMO driving in this market right now, and he doesn't know how much of it's just about the flipping. But I do believe, even with what he said, that there is a new strong collector base growing in China right now, especially when it comes to the high-end cards. Anybody that sold a high-end card in the last year or two knows where a lot of those cards are going. A lot of those cards are moving to China right now because that's where some of the buyers with the absolute deepest of pockets are. So it's just something I want you to really think about it. Like, you got big pocket buyers in China. You got new collectors there. You got people playing catch up. There's a problem too that a lot of these Chinese collectors are going to run into. They have high price points for these. $140 for a product is expensive even in America. $140 is even expensive in the UK, even expensive in Canada. Any of these, even expensive in Japan, any of these more well-established markets, $140 price points. And again, that is without like the conversion and stuff. It's the, like I said, 1,028 won, yeah. But that's a big price point. You know, we look at something like the Mew UPC. The Mew UPC has a $129 price point. The Charizard UPC had a $119 price point. There was a lot of people passed on those. You know, you walk into your local Walmart and you look and you see a Charizard UPC sitting on the shelf. You see potentially a 151 UPC sitting on the shelf. You might pass over that and you're like, you know what? I don't need another 151 UPC. You know what? I don't need another Charizard UPC at $119. So, because those are big price points, 120. So when you have new collectors and you're throwing big dollar amounts at them, it could get dicey. Put it that way. It's definitely a dicey thing. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at right now. So I think a lot of people are just really, really banking on that Friends and Alola card. The problem is when you start to look at these populations, even like the Marnie Determination box, one of the most recent sets in PSA 10, that card has already like hit a PSA population of greater than 2,100 of those cards have been graded. That is a very, very short timeline from when that Marnie Determination box was released to today. So, but the problem is I think there are a lot of people in this hobby that are starting to really look at the Chinese market. I'll tell you right now, you could go on the Pokéknowledge eBay account. I tried to make a couple of the plays that I'm doing apparent. If you look, you're going to find two very common things about my most recent sold items. One, it's going to be a lot of old maids, and second, there's going to be a lot of Chinese PSA 10s. Those are the only cards that have been selling on that account recently. So it's just something to think about. There are buyers for those. And a lot of those cards that I'm selling in PSA 10s, you can see the prices I'm selling them for. $50. A lot of these cards picked up raw for $2.99, grading them for $15, all in for $18, selling them for $50. Buy it now on eBay. Very, very high 10 rates for a lot of these cards. The thing about Chinese cards, for those of you out there that aren't really familiar with it, Chinese cards are actually technically printed in Japan. They're not printed in America. They're not printed in China. They're printed in Japan. But they don't have like Japanese new back to them. They have the actual English back to it. So it shows two things. One, if Pokemon really wanted, English cards could have great print quality, because I'm seeing what's coming out of these Japanese factories with the English back, and the printing quality is chef kiss. Absolute shout out to Chef if he's in the chat. Like, absolutely fantastic print quality. So it just reaffirms the fact that it is possible if Pokemon really want to have great print quality. So these cards are all coming out clean. They're super easy to grade. They're super beautiful cards. There's a lot of fan favorite Pokemon. A lot of cards that have gone up, especially like in the recent times, we've seen crazy price increases with like tag team cards and stuff. A lot of the GX cards, anything from Sun and Moon, all these cards in the English form, all these cards in Japanese form, they've all gone up crazy dollars right now. So for a lot of people, Chinese cards was a very viable option for them to pick up a couple cards for the same artwork for way cheaper. And it's just a matter of, will we ever see the market segue there? I think there was a lot of people doing this the same way I feel about Chinese cards right now. I think a lot of people felt the same way about Korean cards when the crazy hype was going on in this hobby, and, you know, English went crazy, Japanese followed right behind it. couldn't get product in America, couldn't get product in Japan, and then a lot of people started to really focus on the Korean cards, and I think probably the biggest set people were really focusing on was like the Korean Eevee Hero set, and at the time people were like, listen, evolution, or not evolutions, Evolving Skies in English, it's going crazy. Whatever the set, and I can't even think of the set at this time. This is what happens when you talk and you do lives and you don't do pre-recorded stuff. But either way, the Japanese sets were going crazy. So then they were looking at the evolution sets in Korean, and they're like, you know what? This could be a play. And I think for some people that did work out for them, but it didn't probably work out as well as people wanted to. And I think there was a lot of people trying their damnedest to push Korean, and you could probably, and like, you got to be very hyper focused, very hyper aware of what's going on with these conversations. There can be a lot of people trying to push the Chinese market too, the same way as I'm pushing the Chinese market because I kind of like the thought of it. I like that it's an emerging market. I like the fact that there's 1 billion people that live in China. I like the fact that these people are getting back into Pokemon. The fact that these cards are being printed out of Japan really like entices me. And the reason that entices me is not just the print quality, but the reason why I'm enticed by these cards coming out of Japan is we know how like scarce cards are in Japan and the printing troubles they're having just supplying Japanese cards to the market. So they just haven't been able to really focus a lot of this printer allocation to these Chinese cards, at least not the way that they probably need to. So if they're not able to have these printer allocations to print a lot of these Chinese cards, it's potential in the future, if the market continues to go crazy, when people do go back and they say, okay, well, now I've rediscovered these cards, I've now discovered Chinese cards, let me go back and pick up some of them. We might find ourselves in a situation where they're just not as abundant as a lot of people are hoping for. And the reason they're just not as abundant is because the printer allocations were so busy printing Japanese cards. Now, in the future, is it potential that Pokemon does, create printing facilities in mainland China? Mainland China starts printing their own cards, and then later sets just get printed into like absolute Burr mode, oblivion, print everything to the absolute ground in the future for these Chinese sets? Yes, I can 100% get on board with that. I can definitely see that as being a possibility if the Chinese markets get their own designated printers. But I don't care about the future when it comes to stuff like that. I'm looking at the now. I'm looking at what's being printed, how much of this stuff is being printed, is it seem to be rarer? And a perfect example are those Lily collection boxes. When I look at those Lily collection boxes, and I'm still looking at the prices at those things, while they have had little dips, they're still relatively strong. Like, you can't just go pick up one of those Lily collection boxes for MSRP. So they are still strong, and the reason why they're staying strong is it's still got a great, waifu card in it. But more importantly, those things are probably never going to get reprinted at this point. And if they were any small reprints, all those reprints are done because, as I told you earlier in today's video, the Chinese the Chinese market, they started at Sun and Moon base, and now they're working their way into like so they went Sun and Moon to Sword and Shield, and eventually they got to work their way to Scarlet and Violet. So they can only look in the rearview mirror so many times. You think about modern Pokemon being a freight train just moving down the track. For the Chinese market, it's twice as bad. They're skipping sets, they're skipping entire like blocks, from when they released this set, or the first, I just told you this is the first anniversary for this exclusive gift box. Within the last year, we went from Sun and Moon, and here we are, and they're getting pretty dang close to finishing Sword and Shield right now. So, gives you something to think about. In 1 year's timeline, they've went through 24 different sets or whatever, 16 different sets. It's crazy when you think about it, how many sets Chinese have pushed through in just the very small truncated timeline of 1 year. So, all right. Anyways, that was my rant. I always do my introductory rant. Now I'm going to go hop into the chat, see if you guys were right, and I want to see what your comments are, if you guys are interested in the Chinese market or if it's just me. So, as always, I don't know how he does it, but #1 mod in the game lives by that name. He goes, hey PK, I don't know how he does it, but Drew is always the first in the chat. Drew, I appreciate you, buddy. Can't wait to hopefully meet you next summer, either Orlando Collecticon or card party. That'll be a lot of fun to get to meet you in person. Bruce City TCG said, interesting to see what will happen to this box. The market is in a little bit of a lull, so it's hard to know. He said, I think there's a lot of risk in buying right out the gate. I agree. Especially a lot of risk in pre-order in this thing right now because they haven't actually been shipped to the way I understand it. Ornatur says, China is pumping out a lot of different trading cards right now. Disney, Marvel, Star Wars. They just released a Smash Brothers one as well. Oh, that's interesting. So, I mean, I know China... So there is... There's a Chinese set. I can't think of the name of it right now. I wish I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. But there's like a big Chinese set that's being played a lot. And I think the booster boxes are like $20, but I can't remember the name of the set for the life of me. But I know like there's a big competitive like player base for that game. But on my next live, I'll be able to ask me and I'll look it up for you. So Cameron said, I share your optimism on the Chinese market. Our eBay store is one of the only, if not the only, stock and graded simplified Chinese Pokemon cards in Australia to a reasonable scale. Few decent sales. Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like few decent sales. I think people are still very skittish when it comes to the Chinese cards because they're seeing them. They love the artwork. They're ready to make the buy until they kind of reread that label twice and they go, wait, this says Chinese, not Japanese. Oh, I'm out. So it'll take a little while for people to segue out of that. And to be honest with you, that might never happen, you know? I just think there's a lot of, and this is the thing too, where the people that are the true collectors, this is where they think it's the flippers manipulating this market, but it's funny because it's a lot of the times the true collectors, as long as it's a different language, like, then the artwork becomes, in a way, like, inferior. And it kind of, like, gives the flippers a little bit of, like, well, how much of a true collector are you, you know, the second that the language changes and all this stuff. Like, these are just the dumb semantic arguments that Pokemon collectors, investors, flippers have been having for the last 2 decades, and those arguments will never change. So, so DMB2214 said, hey, PK, what are your thoughts on sending old made cards to PSA through Z&G? Would they still have high enough margins to make sense? Absolutely not. If you didn't catch my video 2 lives ago, I told you that old made cards are no longer being allowed at the TCG value tier, so $15. Now, if you want to grade old made cards through PSA, you got to send them at the $19 just like bulk tier. So when you add that $4, you will not be able to send those cards. Nope, do not send old made cards through consignment. If you're going to do it on your own and you're going to send a bunch of cards and you're going to spend $19, as long as you hit 10s, which old made cards hit 10s. I showed you guys a submission. If you don't believe me, you could go on one of my most recent shorts, and I believe it's my most recent short, or my second to last most recent short, where I graded 70 old made cards at PSA, and I got a 70 out of 70 gem mint rate. So even at $19, there could be a very, very small margin, but it's just, you can, honestly, at this point, you just kind of have to wait to, you know, a special bulk grading tier to open up, or for prices to drop for these, until eventually the price point to go in grade these cards is worth it. But right now at 19, sorry, I think that train has sailed in a little bit. Tab said, I'm so excited for what's in this box. I think it's going to be a cool box, especially, and I didn't even, I was so focused on talking about the cards in this box, I didn't even really talk about the actual items in it. But there is like an actual wooden box, has like engraved Pokeballs on it. When you open it up, you're able to put your dice and your damage counters and everything in it, and you're able to seal it. It displays extremely nicely. It is a very quality thing. I'm telling you right now, all the simplified Chinese products that I have gotten to this point, the Lily Collection boxes, the Marnie Determination box, first of all, the Marnie Determination box is gigantic. Might as well be the size of a table, it feels like. That thing is massive. But the quality of these products, and I'm not shilling these products. I mean this. I'm not lying when I say the quality of these special products that are coming out of the Chinese market right now, they feel premium. They look premium. Like, they're not cheap products. So even though these products are costing $140, like, An example being like one of our premium products. Think about like open up a Charizard UPC, open it up, the draws are falling apart, things are just thrown in there. Yeah, you got like a magnet that keeps the lid going, and that's about the extent of it. You got a magnet. I'm telling you, these Chinese specialty boxes, they feel very, very premium. Every single one of them. Like, there is true intention that I think that's a good word to use. Like there's true intention behind the design, and I really mean that. So, and that is not a shill for me. That is the absolute truth that these products do feel premium, and they're massive. I'm telling you, that Marnie's Determination box is massive. It's probably the biggest specialty collection box that I personally own, to be honest with you. So, Aaron Dila Virgin, did I say that name right? He said, let's go. Violet Wood Squirtle said, finally made it to alive. Got my first Shining Raichu graded. Oh, wait. Got my first Shining Raichu grade worthy. Nice. Very, very happy for you. Shining Raichu is Neo Destiny, definitely the best of all the Shinings. A lot of people like to say Neo Rev's got, the Gyarados. It's got the Magikarp. Then Neo Destiny's got all the other shinies. But listen, there's only one shiny that is superior to all others, and that's a Raichu. It's not really up for debate. It's just sometimes I say a lot of things that are up to debate, but then sometimes I just say things that are facts, and that is a fact. Shining Raichu is the best of all the Shining cards. Sorry. Facts, I want to argue against facts, but you just can't. Just like base set Raichu is the best base set Hollow. Beats out Charizard, beats out Venusaur, beats out the Blastoids. Everyone says big three, but there's only the big one. That is the Raichu. Again, these are facts. Facts. So, Pikachu said, holy shit, I'm joining a PK live less than 5 minutes in. Congrats, Pikachu. We got to get you on here. I would like to get Pikachu on in a live again, because especially a lot of Worlds cards recently. Like 2004, 2007 Worlds cards. A lot of these cards we don't see come up very often. If you're into more like the niche stuff, into more of the trophy market, we're seeing a lot of crazy seals happen for a lot of these like key years for a lot of these cards, when especially years when these worlds cards seem to be relatively scarce in comparison to other years, and we're actually starting to see some sales of these cards which we never get to see. Crazy market prices for these. A lot of these cards are selling for all-time highs, so it's crazy because we've seen a lot of pullbacks, but to have a lot of these world cards selling for all-time highs, there's nobody in this hobby right now that I know personally that has a better ear to the ground than Pikachu. So I'd like to get Pikachu on and just be able to pick his brain a little bit. So Tap says, I feel confident in my $250 and $270 pre-orders personally. It's a price point I'm comfortable with. Dude, if you could pre-order those babies at $250, $270, congrats. But the problem is you pre-ordered with somebody who didn't have guaranteed allocations. I just told you, like, October. So if you put those pre-orders in before October 28th, like, there was no way people put pre-orders in. Pre-orders didn't go up for this product until October 28th. So on October 28th, you could put the pre-orders in through the Pokemon Center flagship store out of China. Anybody selling pre-orders before that point didn't have allocations. So while I hope you do get those, just be very mindful. Like, that is not guaranteed, because when you bought that pre-order, unless you bought it post October 28th when they had guaranteed numbers, then you're kind of just hoping. And I hope you get it, man. Peek That Chew said, oh, though we do have Chef954 in the chat. I gave him the shout out earlier. Peek That Chew said, PK, question, what Pokemon do you feel could be the most terrifying Halloween costume? My vote is Mr. Mime. So, terrifying. So I could see how Mr. Mime would be terrifying, just because it's like in your face. What would be the most terrifying Pokemon Halloween costume? Ooh. I mean, if we're going to go real life scary thing, I mean, obviously a Cubone is probably the most terrifying of all the Halloween costumes because Cubone wears his mother's skull. So I would think if somebody walked up to you and they're carrying in their hand like a big femur, like, so they got a big ass bone in one hand, and it's a real bone. It's like, imagine the big of as like cow's femur. That's what Cubone walks around with. And then the dude also he's wearing the skull of his mother. I would say that is a pretty freaking terrifying outfit. I don't know why that's the first one that came to my mind, but yeah, the thought of somebody walking up to me with their mother's skull on their face would be pretty terrifying. Yeah. So Ernie said, finally, some Chinese speculative talk. Yes. I want to get more into it, but it's just I haven't got the product yet. I haven't done any orders yet. And I'm still waiting to watch to see exactly what this market does. Let's see. Number one mod always has the right thing. He says, like and sub, don't forget the bell. Pikachu said, of course China isn't playing. They're a flipper market to the core. It is what it is. Lots of money coming out of China for higher end cards. Zhao is simply one of the many whales. Tap says, it's not the international... So this is when I was talking about like how the Chinese market was going crazy. Tap says, it's not the international buyer's fault Pokemon is making these collection boxes so good in Chinese. Lily box... the Charizard boxes, they're amazing products. They are, and that's what I talked about earlier. Bruce City TCG says, hey, I've bought lots of cards from low feedback Chinese sellers. A lot of them don't have high feedback. You need picks. Yeah, like I said, you can get lucky. I'm just telling you that I would be nervous. Like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Put it that way. With eBay, like, you still have your money back. The problem is with pre-orders and stuff, your pre-orders aren't going to get shipped out, and then there's only a certain amount of time, like, through the eBay policy. I think it's eBay gives up to, like, maybe 30 days for somebody to sell something and have pre-orders and stuff, so it's nerve-wracking for me. If you guys feel confident, like, the people that take the risks, usually the people that take the highest risks, like, have the most gains, but it's just not something I'm going to do. In the same way as I told you, I'm going to pick up some of my product from buyers that I've purchased from in the past. While sometimes those sellers buy product from people I've purchased from in the past, while sometimes those sellers are the lowest on the market, they're not always the lowest on the market. And for certain products, I'll give up like 5 or 10% and pay a little bit of a premium to know I get that absolute guarantee that I know I'm going to get that product. So, let's see. People are asking in the chat, what are they dressing up for Halloween? Let's see. People are just talking. Yeah. Think Forward said, PK, here's a random question. What is your personal most memorable scene from the Pokemon anime? So, my most memorable scene is probably going to go to Season 10, Black and White, when they introduce Dawn and Piplup for the first time. And the way Dawn gets Piplup, like how Piplup is not wanted by his trainer, the way like Dawn picks him up and Piplup is not like he's a very weak Pokemon in a way, but like the amount of just ferocity that Piplup has and the fact that he just thinks he could beat any Pokemon, and he does. He like ends up beating a lot of Pokemon in her very early battles, and Dawn like thinks he's the strongest Pokemon that ever exists until eventually like they get their first defeat, and Piplup just is not willing to give up. Like that is one of the reasons that Piplup is one of my favorite Pokemon, is because of the anime, is because of Dawn and Piplup, is because of Season 10, because of Black and White. And that first loss, I thought the anime did a very good job of like showing that not all trainers are going to win every time, and the way that like it's really hard for Dawn to, and she really struggles to have her first defeat, and she can't really understand that defeat. but like the way she's able to work through it. So that is probably my most memorable like Pokemon anime like memory. Which I bet you didn't think that was going to be the answer, but that is the one that every time it always comes to my mind. It's always that season. I don't know why, because it's the most memorable. It's the one that ingrained itself like strongest in my mind. Fresh Tat says, PK, thought on watching too many market FOMO. No, there you can never watch too many markets, man. Pokemon is just one of those beautiful things, man. There's always something going on somewheres at all times. Like, people ask me all the time. Hell, my wife asks me all the time. She's like, what do you talk about all the time? Because she doesn't watch these videos. Thank God she doesn't watch these videos, because I don't think she would be able to sit through one. But she asks me all the time. She's like, how do you not run out of things to talk about? And I try to explain to her. I'm like, because there's something always going on. There's always something to talk about in this hobby. That's one of the beautiful things about this hobby. But guys, as always, appreciate every single one of you. Do me two things. One, if you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. Number two, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, you made it to the end of a 45-minute and 50-second long rant about Chinese markets and emerging markets and new products coming out. Hit that subscribe button. Other than that, catch you guys on the next video.